I use granola. It's pretty good.
What's up, guys?
You got
Hey Jeff, anything new in the last week that's got you inspired?
Yeah, I've been trying to do like self-merging code. So like agent will propose a fix, make the code change and then review it and then merge. Sort of sort of works, but think in a week maybe it'll be something pretty inspiring.
Cool. Little more hand holding for now.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Got you.
But what's cool is like I got the CodeRabbit merge gate working. So CodeRabbit can kind of act like a person and just automatically do the approve. And usually when I look at the PRs, I'm like, it was pretty reasonable. But I think one thing that's still a little lacking is just it still needs human judgment. So like if you let it go on for too long, you'd be like, yeah, like in theory, all that CI passed, but you kind of did the wrong thing sometimes.
I got you.
So you might need a new model update, like Sonnet 5, Codex 6 or whatever, before that's really cool.
That far out? I don't know. I feel like we're probably like 2 months away with how fast everything.
Maybe. Maybe
Test,
we'll see.
test, test.
What is up?
Hey, I got a question. What's the issue for you, Jeff, with merging? Because, like today, I've been using OpenCode, and it just merges when I tell it to. So, what's the challenge in your situation?
Um, my challenge is not
Test, 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 test.
yep, I can hear
Oh, sorry, my bad. My bad.
you. Yeah, I don't mean like merging like I tell it to, but like let's say I give it a task and then it's working in a PR and then it kind of merges on its own. Um, so that's not hard to do as in get that merge, but then is that merge something that I agree with when I look later? I think that part is the part that's not fully figured out, at least by me. If someone's got it, that'd be great.
So, you are using code review agents, right? And
Yeah.
that's not addressing the issue.
Sort of. So CodeRabbit will kind of like, I feel like it gets like 70% of the comments, maybe the most important thing. But sometimes there's a bit of a judgment call. Like, how would I put it? Okay, let's say I'm like, okay, I want to build a new integration test, right? And then something kind of similar already exists. You could still have a sort of quality issue where you make like a duplicate integration test and then CodeRabbit goes, everything's fine. So what I'm trying to do is I'll be like CodeRabbit plus my customized code review to try to replace my judgment to some degree. All right. I'll start in 2 minutes. Let me just ping the Discord channel. Cool. All right. Let me start presenting. All right. Can everyone see the screen?
Yep.
Cool. So I think I'll do first 15 minutes intro demos. 20 minutes, I'll do a workshop setup. So there's some people who kind of have like never installed Openclaw and I want to kind of get them set up. And then the other people like want to try an experimental thing, which I haven't even fully gotten working, but I think for more advanced people, that'll be cool to get like a sort of staging environment and run two Openclaws. So I think if I'm not, too busy helping new people set up, then I'll try to help people like finish debugging the last part, or maybe someone else will get it. Then I think 10 minutes Q&A, 10 minutes some more advanced topics, and then just more Q&A. And probably after every 5 minutes or so, we can do a few minutes of discussion. So I'll just set some timers to make sure I don't go off track. All right, let me start. All right. Can everyone see this presentation?
Yes.
All right, cool. Yep. So this kind of describes like my setup. I'll just keep it really high level for this part where when everything works, maybe like 70% of the time, you describe your task. And then what's nice is OpenClaw will have like context and memory about what you're talking about. So for example, like let's say I'm like, all right, fix this thing. It's a very brief Slack message, but OpenClaw can remember like what I've asked it to do before. So for example, I'm working on this thing I'm calling a skeptic agent, and it's a custom code review thing. But if I'm like, all right, fix the skeptic agent or whatever, right? It kind of knows what that is, which is nice. You have to re-explain a lot. I use multiple agents with work trees. That's very key for parallelization. CI code review, people know that. And then kind of focus on proof. So like whenever I ask OpenClaw to do something, I ask it to like send me back proof. So kind of know that it really did the thing instead of hallucinating. I'll show a brief demo here. We need to narrate it a bit. All right. So you don't really need to read anything, like everything here. But the most kind of interesting thing is like, I'm like, okay, try to write some OpenClaw memory files. So it kind of remembers everything I'm doing in this thread. And then it's like, okay, like, why can't you write these mem0 files? You don't need to necessarily understand the whole task, but the goal was I was trying to like make some special OpenClaw memory files that do like a little more than the standard integration. But you can kind of see you can talk to it and be pretty brief and then, usually get reasonable outcomes, but sometimes you'll have to debug it. So then it's like, all right, there's some timeout thing. I'm like, give it a longer timeout, right? And then I asked it here, like, what are the priorities and what we're working on? And I'm reading it here. And then I might have just said like, I just make code for it, right? So another interesting thing about this is you can kind of see from like the types of responses I give, they're not that like special. As in, I actually think an agent could replace me. So that's kind of what I'm working on right now to like get things even more autonomous, and you'll see this with LLMs, like you're working with them and they'll be like, hey, I've got this thing ready. And I'm like, okay, well, run the test, right? All right, so I'll show the next slide now. Oops. Okay, we'll go into some concepts right now. Like, what is OpenClaw? So I think what's cool about OpenClaw is it's not just about a particular repo or the code, but more of the concept. So, I've got this cool super diagram, but first concept is frictionless communication. So I know we have other things like Claude Cowork or whatever, but I think they still have a similar concept where it's like, can you like easily talk to your AI versus like you've got a remote desktop into your computer or you have to go sit down. So that kind of enables a certain really higher level of velocity. Then I think the central axis is very important. So, there's a spectrum. Like I kind of go like a little more cowboy and I give it access to most things. Not my bank account, right? But Google Docs, Gmail, whatever. Maybe someone will get a weird email from me, but that's fine. Um, the more access it has, the more powerful it is. So when you think about a lot of the decisions that you do, I think a lot of them are just not like super sophisticated. You're like, okay, like I got to copy and paste from this doc into this Gmail or whatever. When everything is centralized, you put it into AI, you'll usually get either a pretty good outcome, I think if you like iterate on it, or you'll get something that moves you forward. Um, and I would say this was especially kind of powerful at Snapchat. So like at Snapchat, I have a prototype service that talks to like 30 different services at Snap. It's actually more like useful in a workplace than personally, because personally I just do a lot of coding. I don't have a lot of data sources, right? But let's say something's going wrong at Snapchat, there's some investigation, and you have like 5 different systems and the code. You can open up a lot of Windows look yourself, where you can put it into a central AI. We're not even using Openclaw, it's just a central MCP server, and we're like, figure this out. And it'll give you reasonable hypotheses. You can quiz, and it'll be like, I don't know, not even 10 times faster, like 100 times faster than me manually doing it. So something can be figured out in like 30 minutes that could, I don't know, take me days or maybe even a week. And I think the final thing is memory. This part is still like work in progress, I would say. I think they just released the upgraded memory plugin too. But OpenClaw will have like a history of the messages that you sent it, and then it'll do some compaction by default. And I upgraded it with a vector database as well. Um, the idea is to like kind of replace yourself more and more. So you kind of remember when you saw me doing those slacks, it didn't seem like the things I said were genius. I'm like, okay, continue very often, right? So how much can it replace you? I think as models get better, more and more. Also, when you're working with the memory, it's nice to be like, this memory, how did it change the prompt to the final worker? And I can get into that a bit later. Right. I'll give a brief thing about my system architecture. So you got the user. I'm calling this OpenClaw harness, but this is just customizations I have on OpenClaw. Then I use this open source library called Agent Orchestrator. I think some of the contributors or main guys are here, so they can talk about it a bit later. And then it goes to external systems to do work and especially code review. All right, and then here's a stack. Got another super pyramid. So what do I use? Primarily OpenClaw. Um, I like to start everything in OpenClaw. OpenClaw has these agent orchestrator managers that manage your workers for you. Or sometimes when I want more personal control, I use CMux terminals. So CMux is like a terminal program, but it's pretty good for parallelization and AI development. Then I use the open source framework that I forked, Agent Orchestrator, to do the workers. And then once it gets to here, this part is like not really controlled by me as much anymore. So I'm calling them managed agents, but basically like you have a worker that runs Claude Code, and Claude Code itself can run agents, and those can have sub-agents. So once you get to this Claude Code part, right, this part is not exactly my stack, just stuff I use, but this part of the stack I'm changing a lot more. I'll pause here to see if anyone has any questions or thoughts.
Can you hear me? So I have a question. So
Go ahead.
the real question is, why use OpenClaw versus directly use Claude?
So yeah, that's definitely a good question. The reason I use OpenClaw is specialization. So when OpenClaw makes a decision, I want that context to be more about like the spec or the goals or like the history of what I want in the task rather than the code. And you can just imagine this, right? As soon as you open up Claude, it reads Claude MDs, it reads skills, it reads MCPs. A lot of those things are sort of independent of like the actual task. It's more about how to do the task. So imagine like 25% of your context already taken up by implementation versus like when you think about Openclaw, you're like, okay, I want to think about exactly what I want to do and how it relates to all the other slacks Jeffrey has sent me in the last 2 weeks and put it all together and give me like a reasonable spec. Let me know if that makes sense.
Oh, I mean, so you're basically saying, if I'm trying to rephrase what you're saying, is that Claude Code is something much more specialized. It's for coding,
Yeah,
and you're thinking of OpenClaw as more of a replacing you type of thing.
yeah, exactly. And there is a bit of a hybrid mode though. So I don't do everything through Openclaw. If something gets messy or it's a big task, I actually go into the CMUX terminal to work. So then this is actually like, you could think of this as like using Claude Code to talk to an orchestrator, which manages other instances of Claude Code. But in this situation, I want more of a coding context. So it's like, maybe OpenClaw gave something, but the workers are getting stuck or they're confused. Then I have one worker with all the same context as the other workers, but directing them. So I'll usually operate individually at this level to start, but then, there's this sort of orchestrator level, if that makes sense.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Awesome. Any other questions? All right. So brief little infographic about AI coding evolution. I'll give a disclaimer that greenfield is different than brownfield. So greenfield usually means a fresh, brand new code base or project. Brownfield means existing, especially with legacy code. But I think the more advanced you are in the greenfield, the better, because then you can bring that back to the brownfield. So you don't want the attitude to be like, oh, something won't work in brownfield. I won't even try it and figure it out. You want to be like, okay, what is possible in greenfield or in a particular part of my code base? Let's say I'm making new integration tests in a new folder. Can that part at least be greenfield and set up in a more AI or agentic way? So I'll explain each stage. First stage, no AI. People probably know what that is. And there's autocomplete. Maybe some people skip the stage, but it was basically, you're typing code and it finishes off for you. Pretty nice, right? Then it's the code assist stage. So this stage, usually you are doing some of the coding, maybe half the coding, but the AI is like writing the code for you as well, and you're looking at it, checking it. Um, I think this Claude Code stage that some people have gotten to is sort of a big shift where because you're often just looking at the terminal and reviewing code, not really looking at the IDE, you've kind of changed things to be like, Claude, you really are the coder and I'm the reviewer, versus like here where you're kind of like pair programming together. Then once you make this shift, then you're like, okay, like I can sit around looking at Claude doing work, or I can review the code later. If I review the code later, can I parallelize? So then you want to use work trees. And I have a recording of this in Zoom, so you don't have to take notes or anything, but work trees will give you isolated copies of your code base, but at least share the Git history. So they're not going to, take up your directory like crazy. A lot of people do multiple clones of a repo, but I would say it's usually not as good. OpenClaw is a little orthogonal to some of these concepts, but I just kind of think of it as a big multiplier for reasons I described earlier. Sort of like replacing yourself, central access to AI services, and a reduction of friction in communicating with your AI. Then, some of you have heard of Ralph loops. They recently released the Claude command called /loop. And basically that just gets your coding agent to keep working longer than it normally does. So if, for example, you give it a big prompt, usually it doesn't last for like 5 hours, right? Or if it does, I would be surprised. Sometimes it might be 30 minutes to 1 hour, but I think when you have a looping strategy, whatever it is, you're going to get like multiple hours of planned work. And that's very key when you're like optimizing for like times you're not really active, right? So when you're sleeping, what's happening, right? Like if nothing's happening, then and your weekly token budget is not being used, then you're not really like fully getting your money's worth, right? So OpenAI released this article, just remind me to link it later, but it was called Harness Engineering. Thought it was a pretty insightful article. And the main thing is like, how do you set up your code base to really like improve agent autonomy? So for example, it's not as good as this, right? But let's say you have a compiler, right? And it produces some bad assembly code. Would you go and go like, okay, let me fix that assembly code? I mean, you could maybe if it's an emergency, but usually you wouldn't do that. So instead, you'd fix the compiler to basically go, how do I prevent that in the future? Now, obviously, that's a lot more deterministic than LLMs these days, but that's sort of the philosophy or North Star. So whenever something goes wrong, can I modify my Claude MD, my agents MD, my skills, something so it doesn't make that mistake in the first place? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Or worst case, if it happens, can I at least have some solid integration tests to detect something goes wrong? And then the agent can kind of loop back and go like, okay, something's wrong. I'm going to reapproach it. So one example that's pretty cool is OpenAI has these like sort of videos of their product. So they'll make an agent, it'll try to be autonomous, do work, and it'll try to produce a video at the end to be like, um, did I actually get the feature right? I think once this is reasonably solid, not perfect, then the orchestrators become more important. So like here, maybe you have 5 or 10, and then here you have like 10 or 20, right? But if this is not solid, then they're kind of just like not super efficient. They're probably going to eat up your weekly budget. If you have a big budget, maybe you can like have this kind of crappy and this working, if you're okay with that. But a lot of people don't, right? So I think once this has some reasonable level of efficiency, then you go here. And then I'm not saying I'm doing this for brownfield, but greenfield, I'm at least giving this a shot. So self-evolving, when I say self-evolving, I just mean you trust the agent enough to merge the code itself. And I think the first time this will actually start working well will be more like tools versus like, oh, you're coding up airplane software, right? But what's exciting about this is I've seen reasonable decisions being made, and I'm just mostly using CodeRabbit to go, did CodeRabbit approve the PR? And I have 3 other code review bots. CodeRabbit is instructed to look at all of their review comments, and it goes, okay, did you fix all of Cursor's comments? Did you fix all of OpenAI's comments? Did you fix my comments? Then CodeRabbit will actually do the approve, merge the PR. Pretty cool, but sometimes I see it, I'm like, ooh, man, I didn't want to merge that PR, right? So I'm trying to figure that out, and I'm actually going back to this stage in a way to be like, can I have my own custom review agent that does what CodeRabbit does and check some other things, basically. And then I can show a demo of the real site, but doing like an AI RPG type of thing. This
So
is
to your point there, I just have a quick question. What I'm tending to find I'm spending more time and getting a little bit more challenged with is the testing part.
Ugh.
The and that's like, so the agent is creating stuff very fast,
Yeah,
and as a reviewer, I can't keep up.
yeah, yeah. So what I would say is like, what point are you kind of putting yourself into the loop? Like, are you trying to like read the code that it's generating, or is it more like at the end you're doing your code review and then you're like, I don't have a great way to test this to know that it worked? Like, what would you say your situation?
I am actually testing out doing, final integration testing,
Mhm.
clicking around and making sure that things are supposed to. So, there's a certain level of integration testing, but then after that, a manual testing, you know.
Okay. And basically, it's hard for you to keep up because it can generate so many things, but you find yourself as the human bottleneck, right? Is that fair?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So I have a slash command for you that'll magically solve all your problems.
Mhm.
Um, just joking, but I think this will help. Okay. So the approach I take is I try to like automate as much test as possible. I don't know if you've tried like sort of browser tests, but I
Mhm.
think people try to start here and go like, okay, I'll have 1,000 browser tests, and then it gets every single thing I could get, right? Not really, right? Because they take a while. Sometimes they're flaky. So I
Mhm.
try to do this minimal repro ladder where everything I build, I try to build it with TDD, and every time I find a bug, I try to execute this ladder. And if you think about this whole harness engineering concept, every time something goes wrong, either I try to change my prompts or try to fix tests like this. So for example, let's say I'm manually testing something, right? And I see a bug. I run the slash command and I go, what's the minimal thing that could reproduce the bug? So sometimes it really is a unit test, right? As long as you can reproduce it, like you make a failing test, you fix it, and then you rerun the test and it works. Sometimes it's more of an end-to-end test. Here, what I mean by an end-to-end test is you have your server or app, and you don't mock out any of that code inside of that server or app, but you might mock out network calls or disk reads or something truly external. Then this test is like kind of like a backend type of test if you think about it, but it's supposed to not be with UI. So for example, with my role-playing game, this is like a backend test that makes a campaign, does every single thing a player does, but it does it without a browser, right? So you could use MCP, which usually is JSON or whatever, or HTTP. Doesn't really matter actually. And then the final thing is the browser test. So some things like are visual. I mean, maybe you could even have CSS tests or JS tests, right? And that kind of goes here. But then the final thing is visual. So I would recommend you like try similar approaches to this and be like, okay, like which problems truly needed that human or not. And I think what's kind of cool is like every quarter or maybe even every month, like it improves. So before, like I had to really manually test a lot because like, this worked fine, right? But these things didn't work that well with agents like last year, like a year ago, even 6 months ago. But now like agents are pretty good at like nailing down a lot of browser tests for me. Versus like when I started, my agent would have a lot of problems, finding a pop-up and entering a password. Now, no problem. That was a little long, but does that kind of address the theme of your question?
Yeah, I think this is good. Good. Thank you.
Okay.
Take a
Yeah,
look.
just remind me for all these slash commands. I'll put links here and stuff. All right, cool. Anyone have any other questions related to some of that stuff? All right. If not, I will go here. All right. So here's two websites that I've built. Yeah, while that loads, I'll show this one. So this is like a AI RPG. What's cool about this is I've got a default campaign, for example. Yeah, pick some options, got an avatar. And what's cool about this is it builds a custom world for you that reacts to you. So you can like kind of say whatever you want, do whatever you want. You'll get a story back. The main difference between playing this versus like you could just always go into Gemini chat or Chat GPT or whatever is that I have like a D&D system. So if you play your own like games or novels, like you kind of just win too much versus like with this, you'll actually do like dice rolls and be like, did the person actually did you actually succeed in your action or not? All right, so while this is going, I'll also show this thing. Yeah, so this is funny. This website is like a multi-AI analysis website. So what I found was like whenever I was doing research or whatever, I would go to multiple models and I would be like, what's the answer? Then I copy and paste them all. I put them into one model. So pretty simple concept, but this does it for you. So usually I like these answers better than like asking one model. And I'm like, okay, how do I do this workshop? Right. I actually didn't follow this because I thought about doing it at the end, but I probably should have. So you'll get a pretty decent answer. And then what's cool is if you scroll down, you'll see like, okay, what were all the individual models? What did they do? Then here I've got like what their contributions were. So, and I use Cerebras to assemble just because it's fast. All right, and I'll show this too. So what's cool about this is you actually have like real stats and do dice rolls and stuff like that. I'll show like one story entry. The chat too. Yeah. So this streaming thing actually, a year ago, my model had like a lot of trouble figuring out this streaming thing, right? And then I think I just tried it again like 3 months ago and like one shot the streaming. So things really improve a lot. So yeah, it'll generate a story for you and you can kind of say whatever you want. So I could even say something funny like, way should handle it for me. And you can pick other choices. And we'll see how this website goes, but I'm gonna try like some more exciting things, like give each character an agent type of thing. But of course, there's a lot of token spent, so you got to balance that. All right. So I think, yeah, all right. So I got the dice roll, right? But like, obviously, it's a DC just means difficulty class if you play D&D, but it rolled a DC 20 because like, how are you gonna like run away easily? Everyone's gonna see you, right? So I failed the dice roll, and then narratively it reacts. So blah blah blah, right? And then he watches your clumsy attempt at flight, right? That's pretty funny. Yeah. So anyway, definitely give it a try. You guys try it out. Give me some feedback. All right, so I think now we can try the sort of oh yeah, I think I demoed the Slacks already. Oh, I'll do a CMux demo. Okay, I'll do a quick CMux demo in Slacks, but basically what's cool about Slack is like it's more high level. So I try to like not be managing one PR, but I'm managing multiple PRs. So I'm like, okay, what's the status, right? We got a bunch of workers, and then what looks wrong, right? So, all right, we have some failing CI checks. And then often I'm just like, what do you recommend? Right. If I want to install a program, I think something lagged here, but it did install this actually. Just didn't report back. Or I'm like, install all the Anthropic skills for me. Great, right? Another cool thing is scanning CMUX terminals. So this is a program that I use called CMUX. It's pretty good for just parallelizing work and stuff like that. But what's cool is it has programmatic socket access to all these terminals, similar to tmux, but I can scroll up, right? Unlike tmux, I always forget how to scroll up. Um, so these terminals can talk to each other, and also Slack can talk to them too. So I can just be like, okay, like, what are my terminals doing? And it'll actually be like, all right, this is what they're doing. And then I said, this to explain this is me controlling anti-gravity through CMUX to like do work. Just the quick reason is anti-gravity has the best token deal. So like I try to programmatically control this. There's a million combos or whatever. But like if I'm clicking on this, right, like I can't do it when I'm sleeping. But what I can do is I can have this terminal. I guess I cleared it. Yeah, I can have this terminal control this, and then this basically has unlimited Opus 4.6, which is really key when you're trying to like, get your best deals and tokens. So this kind of implemented a lot of stuff on part of my roadmap. All right, and I'll demonstrate this too. So I think something was not working here. Let's see. All right, so I think my skeptic agent is not working right now, right? So I can be like, okay, what's the status? It's the latest PR now. And what I like about this is it has that sort of vertical tab type of thing. Because when you go horizontal, it's really easy to lose track of your tabs. But we've got notifications too. So when this thing is finished or this is finished and I need to look, it'll give me a notification. And I can just focus on clearing the notifications. So here, the way I'm using these terminals, usually it's more like a manager rather than a coder. And it's kind of interesting, but it gives you a certain benefit where I feel like the worker is not biased anymore. So when I code with these directly, I usually feel like there's a bias where it wants to say things are really working or whatever, right? Versus like, you know, and I'll show this. Let's look. If this had been working on PR 294 by itself, I think it would have been like, this PR is amazing, like we got to merge it, right? But then this one was like, no, like there's another PR that should supersede it, and probably we should just close this PR, right? So that's kind of the benefit you get where the manager has a different context than the workers. Let's see. All right, so this is compacting, whatever. So it'll take some time to complete. Don't want to wait for it, but when it completes, you see these notifications, and I think my efficiency has improved a lot with CMux. I think is Austin or someone from CMux here?
Yeah, I'm here. What's up?
Cool. Yeah, so Austin is one of the guys behind CMux. Big fan of it, and I'm not paid to say this or anything, but big fan of CMux. I've been using it a lot. I don't know. You can spend a minute if you want to talk about anything cool about CMux.
Yeah, so yeah, one of the creators of CMOX, really happy to have Jeff as one of our power users, and also like kind of endorsing it for free. But yeah, lots of things that we're shipping. We shipped Cloud Code Teams integration. So if anyone is using Cloud Code Teams and wants to actually see what the sub agents are doing, it'll automatically spawn terminals for that. We also shipped CMOX SSH. So if you do any SSH work, you can use our native CMOS SSH to, do your Tailscale, etc. To other computers, you can even use it to run your own Openclaw in your Mac Minis. But yeah, just one of the creators. Please feel free to email me if you have anything that you think is a bug or any feedback, feature requests. I'm always available, and yeah, I just love seeing people using CMux and always want to take as much feedback as I can to like get them into the product as fast as possible. So yeah, just a little bit about me. But I'll let Jeff take the show. Yeah.
All right, thanks a lot. Yeah, then one more cool thing, you have like links to PRs and stuff on the side, so you can be like, okay, what PR is that? Because it's easy to lose track of things when you're trying to do 10 things at once. It's a little different because I'm using it in orchestration mode, but then it'll be like, what's your main PR you're working on? All right. Realize we only have 20 minutes left, lots of topics, so should try to do the workshop now. So, and then if we have time later, we can do some advanced session or overtime and talk about Agent Orchestrator in more detail. All right, so let me put the instructions. 1 second. Okay, how many people have not set up Openclaw at all versus they have? I have two sets of instructions. One is for never set up and one is for like set up already.
I've never
Right,
set
thanks,
it
man.
up.
So definitely
Good to
try
know.
the first one then. And then I've got the second one for people who are doing staging. So just a warning, the staging one is a little experimental. I just set it up today, so it kind of took down my other one. But I think once you have something cool, like once you have it working well, and I'll just try to get it done right now. Um, it's nice to have like two instances running because if you develop a lot with OpenClaw, customize it a lot, you'll find you'll just take it down very often. But like, what if you have two open claws? One is like your development, one is your production. Your production helps you fix the development. Um, so yeah, whoever has not tried it, let's do the first one together though. So it can be good to read this, but in some ways it's kind of like whatever. So you can just like get OpenClaw to, we're not OpenClaw. You can just get Cloud Code or something to do it, right? So let me clear this. Get the full URL, for example. So you can actually just give sorry, you can give Cloud Code something like this. It'll usually be able to understand what Openclaw is because it's famous enough. It's probably in the training data, and then it'll like use my special instructions. My instructions aren't very much different than anyone else's, except I just have some info on the Slack app. Cloud Code would be able to get this by itself, but I feel like this is the most convenient way to make the Slack app because you want to have just some JSON here to just set everything up with the defaults you want. And then I have launchd. So what happens, I think, is like your computer can like restart or whatever, right? And then you don't want to like manually restart OpenClaw. So if you have a Mac, this will just restart it for you. And then I have some Google integration. All right. So maybe just put in the chat like how many people have never set it up before. I'll ask you to. I
Yeah,
mean,
I'm set up, but I don't have your integration. Can you send that link to the chat? The one
yeah, let me
with
send it
all your
one
specs.
time.
I've been setting mine up today, and I'm just letting AI set it up and hoping that it does it right.
Yeah, you can point it at my instructions, or you could even just tell it to do it. You should be able to do it. All right, let's work on it with the people who never set it up then. Okay. PC. All right, Andy, you should try it. Do you have Claude Code or Cursor or anything on your PC?
No, I this is like a new PC.
All right,
So
it might be
I
a
just
little hard.
downloaded Zoom earlier
Yeah.
today.
Might be a little hard to do it without AI, but in theory, all of these instructions should work, so you could give it a shot.
Full disclosure, Jeff, I'm waiting to do this on a virtual server or a VM. I kind of want it off. I don't have a Mac Mini. I do have an extra MacBook Air, but I might run it on the MacBook Air, but I'm trying to keep it off my
Yeah.
personal device. So
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know if you have the MacBook Air, you want to give it a shot.
it's like I gotta find it, but
Okay,
it's
no worries. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, the virtual server might take some time. Oh, go ahead.
That was it.
Oh, can you send that command that you put in terminal? I'm gonna try to install it on the VPS
Yeah.
that I have that I already paid for and haven't even used it really.
Hey
So
Jeff,
all I said,
is there a reason that Docker Compose doesn't kind of like solve the setup issues for a lot of people?
um, I think you could use Docker. I don't use it, but like if you want, you could just say in these instructions like use Docker or whatever. What I found was like I wanted to give it access to some stuff, and I don't know, it just had some friction, and I was just like, to me, I don't care because everything on my laptop's backed up. I could lose it. But if people want, like what you would say is like something like this, right? To be like, you know, well, instructions, Docker instead. Then you have to download Docker. Depending on your settings, sometimes your AI can download Docker for you, and it'll generate a new set of instructions. Are you doing a Docker, Rob?
Yeah, I always Docker like everything because it's super easy to just blow stuff away. And also too I'm looking a lot at the like I haven't solved it yet, like I haven't really focused on it, but I'm thinking ahead towards like how I protect against prompt injection.
Mm.
And so I want to be able to have everything that I can just like put it into an image. Right. I do have it in GitHub. So like there's an action that builds everything and then it deploys. And so I use Docker for everything like in personal and at work. Just once you get into the habit of
Yeah,
working that way, it's nice.
I think I would do it if I started doing external facing agents. So I'm not doing that right now. I'm just mostly using it for my own work, but it definitely makes sense. Have you had any friction points or has it all been pretty smooth for you?
With like which part?
Like let's say accessing services, using your browser,
Um, yeah, so I kind of been what so I have it where it's loading up for me today. I mostly have, so I'm using OpenCode today.
Mm.
Kind of switched to OpenCode within the last couple of days from Cloud Code, and it's been able to pretty much do everything. Like I went to the grocery store and let it work, and I came back and it was like it was finally like loading up in the browser. But there's it's definitely been spinning its wheels a bit with an issue with like on the login page for OpenClaw, it keeps saying origin not allowed.
Mm.
And so I realized that I was using one of the free models, so I would just not use up any tokens, Minimax or something like that, like, free with open code. And so after a little while, I was like, okay, maybe this model is just kind of stupid, and then I just switched to a different model. So like now I'm letting the Kimi K2.5, and I just told it like spend more time investigating this. I think it'll figure it out.
So yeah, so Calvin doesn't like Minimax. I like Minimax actually. They have a new one like 2.7. I think it is a bit better than Kimi and the benchmarks, but everyone has their own opinion. I feel like it's like 70% as good as Sonnet, but the way I use it is I'll have a smarter model like review the work from Minimax. Then I think it's like kind of reasonable, right? So if you're using the agent orchestrator library, there are like monitor like orchestrator agents, right? And you could have that orchestrator agent use Opus if you want, and then the other ones could use Minimax. I think it uses it okay. I mean, I actually haven't been like looking at what it does that much anymore versus like I just look at the output and I'm like, okay, was that PR reasonable? No, it seems to use MCP for me. All right. Andy, let's see. Oh, terrible structure there. Yeah. All right. You prefer Slack. Did you give it a shot with the Slack instructions I have? Or okay, you logged in, but you don't know how to get back in. So you can ask
Yeah,
Claude. Yeah, go ahead.
I have like this Openclaw gateway dashboard on my Edge, but when I try to click connect, it won't log in anymore for some reason.
Interesting. What if you do like OpenClaw, like Doctor or something? What does this give you? And then Andy, I think you're the one without an AI thing, right? So you just kind of are you running these commands yourself?
I went in the terminal last week and then I got it to install, and then I logged in through the browser, and then once I closed my computer, I logged out of
Hmm.
OpenClaw. So I got into OpenClaw, or OpenClaw got
My
installed.
main recommendation's a little more meta. I would be like, definitely get Cloud Code or Cursor or something working. I think were you the one who was using Windows?
Windows, yeah.
Windows is a little messier. You can use an emulator or you can do dual boot, but let's say you want to stick with Windows. I would just first get Cloud Code running. Then like you don't need to like waste your time going, oh, like did I run the right command with this thing or whatever, right? So you'd just be like in here, you'd be like set up my dashboard or something, right?
So like you're saying like download a Claude on
Yeah.
my computer?
Yeah. Or
Okay.
Cursor or whatever you want. Like
Cursor.
the main thing is like I think you want some type of AI agent running on your computer and then it can bootstrap the other ones. But if you do OpenClaw first, I think that one's like messier to set up than Cloud Code. Like Cloud Code you can install with like one command and then get that working. Yeah.
The I do pay for the ChatGPT.
Yeah, then you
Does
would use
ChatGPT
Codex.
have?
Yeah, you use Codex.
Okay.
I'll give a link in here.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so just download that.
Yeah. They actually have an app too, so the app might be nice.
Yeah. Okay. And then use that to help me get back in and set
Yeah,
set up.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool. Thanks.
All right. Just using the sandbox. It should not. Where would you have you run into any troubles, Aaron, about sandbox token usage?
No, I'm not technical at all,
Oh
but
yeah,
I
yeah.
have Openclaw installed, so I'm just
Okay.
very newbie questions.
No,
But
no,
I
no,
appreciate
no
you
bad
putting it
questions.
together.
All good. Yeah. No, the sandbox wouldn't do that. I think
Okay.
if everything's working well for you, keep using the sandbox. For me, I just, don't use the sandbox, and so far nothing bad has happened. But I think if I had an
Yeah.
external bot, then I would use the sandbox too.
You changing the testing a new model, like it'll go down, then I have to figure out how to get it back up again. So I think I want to set up the sandbox
Oh,
because
sorry,
my
sorry. Okay, wait. There's two kinds of things. Okay. The sandbox that most people talk about means like they run it in Docker or they like have it running in an
oh
isolated part of their system. But the
mhm.
other one was the one where I made the staging instructions where I was like, oh,
Yeah,
okay. So
that's
so
what I'm
that
referring to.
that could double your token usage if you send the same work to both of them. If you have
Got
two
it.
of them, right? But I think the way I would use it is not like that. Like I think I would do local development and then I would run integration tests on the sandbox or staging one, right? So I have two of them. And then once like everything's good, then I would merge the code and deploy to the production one.
I
Um,
see.
so it wouldn't double your usage, but it would definitely increase it. But then the benefit is you might have some more reliability. So
Yeah,
I
I
made
got
some
it.
instructions and I was kind of in the middle of setting it up, but then, it's like competing with the other one. So I got to debug it.
Yeah,
But I think, it's worth trying out though. So I had that for more advanced people to give it a try.
cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Or even if you're not as
What
advanced, if you want it, you can try
Yeah,
it.
I'm definitely gonna play around. But what model do you use? Like, do you have something that like a default orchestrator model, and then
Yeah,
you like
so
say for
I
this use
mostly
that?
use Codex 5.3. I found I found GPT 5.4 to just use more tokens. And even 5.3, like I just get destroyed all the time, right? So I might have to adjust
Yeah,
it. So basically I use this until like this is getting low, and then I just switch to mini max, which is not as good, but it kind of gets the job done. And
yeah,
then this is more about money than like preference, but some work I can still kind of just do here, so I don't always have to do a top level through OpenClaw. So I'll use
yep,
this to like talk to Agent Orchestrator, which is another open source framework that I use a lot to get work done when I'm at the computer, and then when I'm not, I'll do Slack or something.
I see. And why Slack over like a Telegram? Is that just preference, or do you
Just my
find it actually?
preference. I like how it has threads and some stuff like that. And then the mobile app has a nice kind of, card system for like pending work items. But I think people should just use whatever you want. Yeah.
Nice, thanks.
All right. All right. Do I have a sandbox service? So by sandbox, do you mean like Docker or something to make sure it doesn't have too much access?
Yeah, sorry. I don't really have context for this call. I just joined. I'm Barat. So you were talking about sandbox services.
Yeah, yeah.
So is this call basically like you teaching people how to set up OpenClaw or?
Kind of, yeah. I was doing a bit of a demo before. We had some topics to talk about, and then trying to help some people get set up now.
Cool. Yeah. So the second part of my question is like, what's your opinion on cloud hosted services? So one of my friends has a service called Agent 37 where it's like just subscription based. You don't have to bring your own API key. You have a certain amount of tokens that he provides, but you can bring your own API key. Is that like a safe alternative, or do you recommend like people to
I mean,
sandbox?
as long as you trust the provider to some
Yeah,
degree,
fair.
right? Yeah. Well, let's say you trust the provider, sure. I mean, I think especially if you don't want to mess around with a lot of stuff and worry about your computer running out of disk or memory or something, yeah,
Right.
why not, right? I personally like a bit faster control and like lower latency than dealing with cloud. So I'm willing to deal with the messiness, and potential maybe security problems, right? But
Right.
everyone has their own decision. But I think if I had external facing agents, I would definitely do some cloud thing or whatever, or I'd run in a Docker container for my computer because
Gotcha.
that's a lot different. Yeah.
I have one more question if that's all right.
Real quick, actually, if you don't mind,
Oh,
Yeah,
good.
Jeff, when you
all good.
mentioned, sorry to cut you off,
No,
Brad,
you're
but
good.
when you say external facing agents, are you speaking to like just what exactly?
Oh, so like, let's say I had a blog website and you could just talk to my agents, right? Then yeah, I would use like some cloud thing, right? I wouldn't let it hit my laptop and run Claude code on it.
Okay.
You can
Gotcha.
imagine there's probably some good way to get it to do something weird, right? Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah. All right. Did you have a question?
Yeah. So I'm building like Instagram for AI agents similar to Moltbook, and I'm trying to like I'm a developer, but I'm trying to figure out how to pre-configure agents so that they can connect to our app easier. Um, so like I'm still learning about like the skill MD, the identity MD,
Yeah.
soul MD, bootstrap MD. So if I were to like give people pre-cooked OpenClaw instances, what do I kind of instead of having them their agents go and figure out how to connect to our website, what documents would I change to have prerequisite memory for them so their agents already know how to connect to our experience? Is that something that people do or have done?
I mean, I think you would use the Openclaw plugin, right? So
Right.
that would be like, okay, how do I talk to the server? How do I set up? Usually it provides some token.
Right.
I think Moltbook might already have one, right? Or yeah.
Yes. Am I allowed to share the link to my website if people want to see it, or
Yeah,
is
yeah,
that
go ahead. Yeah.
okay? Cool.
I
Thank
also
you.
have a promotion in my Discord, like a promotions channel. So you can talk about your stuff there. Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, I'm promotion friendly. So anyone wants to promote something, go ahead, as long as you don't go crazy.
I love to connect with everyone on LinkedIn. I don't know if you guys already like shared those. If we can do that, then awesome.
Yeah, yeah. I have a Discord. Do you have the link to the Discord?
Um, I'm not sure. Could you send
Let
that
me send it.
as well?
Yeah, feel free to join the Discord, and
Cool. Thanks.
there's a promotions channel too. All right, cool. Kind of low on time, but I think we have some agent orchestrator guys here too. Yeah, are you guys still here? Okay, Austin has to head out. Right. Maybe the agent orchestrator guys had to leave, but um, I basically use their framework a lot. I forked it and added some stuff, but I'll share the repo. Pretty big fan. And there's a lot of other orchestrators, but I'll explain like why agent orchestrator, right? So um, in some ways you could call Ralph an orchestrator. I started with that, but I feel like it's good for like getting a particular task done, but not like it's not really like a full orchestrator. It's like more like, okay, like I'm gonna loop and get some work done. Versus like what I like about Agent Orchestrator, I'm working across it like 5 repos, I'm managing multiple PRs, and it can bring them mostly like fixing tests when it's not too complicated, fixing comments, stuff like that. Then there's Symphony by OpenAI, open source. To the best of my knowledge, though, it does not really handle the CI part for you. So it doesn't like fix merge conflicts, fix tests. Maybe it can fix code comments if you set it up, but kind of didn't work out of the box. The last one is Gastown. I didn't try Gastown as much because it just has a lot of code and it kind of does like more than I would want it to do, if that makes sense. It has like I think like 5 different layers of agents or something. Oh yeah. Troy, you can definitely present yours. So I was kind of just like, like maybe if I had unlimited budget, I would try Gastown, but it seems like it's doing a little too much for me. So I've been using Agent Orchestrator. It's open source. I forked it, added a lot of stuff that I care about, more customizations, but definitely a cool repo. And then Troy has also a solution. Yeah, Troy, you want to talk about your agent loop? So he's got another orchestrator.
Yeah, for sure. Log one. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Am I able to present the
Oh
screen?
yeah. You might need to ask for permission.
Let's see. Send the request.
All right. I stopped my share. I'm gonna try it. All right. Is it working for you? I don't see.
Uh, yeah, it says I have to enable Mac permissions, so I might have to quit and reopen real quick.
All right, go ahead.
You're back.
Cool. While he waits, anyone else have any other topics?
Yeah, I've
Otherwise,
been wanting to ask you about
okay,
something.
go ahead. Go ahead.
So I didn't, yeah, forgive me if I just missed it or whatever, but like in your workflow, um, is there a spec-driven phase to your work? Because I want to relate this to something you were saying. You're like, oh, I get commits that I go back and look. It's like, oh, I didn't want that commit. And I'm not at the stage you're at yet, but in my, just trying to imagine the future of what, like, how will I tackle this?
Mhm.
My thinking is to try, I think you kind of said some of this, right? Like, go heavy on like uh, planning steps. And I was thinking that I would try to get like a lot of detail in my spec, like architecturally, and also like telling the agents how to approach stuff. Oh, on tests, on unit tests, like obviously have good like full test coverage, um, and then just like having control over like basically where in my system am I using pure functions? Where do I have side effects? I feel like if I lock that stuff down, I'm going to get better results. But you're ahead of me, so like, is that what you're seeing? Have you tried it that way?
Uh, Definitely plus one to all of that. The only thing is sometimes I like vibe spec where I don't read the spec very carefully, but if I get a bad outcome, then I go back and then I actually flesh out the spec and read it. So I just think there's a bit of a balance where like, I could spend more time up front, but sometimes it's going to one shot it. Did you already read the harness engineering article by OpenAI as well?
I don't think so.
Okay, that's a good one. It kind of broadly covers what you're talking about, but I think what you're talking about is the right strategy to get your agents more autonomous. So I'll share that link and then Troy can kind of, all right, Andy has discovered fire. Great. Troy can talk about, I actually like Troy's UI the best for orchestrators. So Troy can talk
Right,
about
by
his.
the way, your screen, can you like make the window smaller? Because you're like an
Small.
ultra wide. Yeah.
Yeah. It might not format correct. I guess this is fine, but it's not gonna focus unless I share the window. It's not gonna focus. So I might as well just full screen it, I think.
Yeah, and then Rob, you
But
can see what Troy and Calvin think about your question too, because they're kind of in this space.
yeah. All
So
right.
Jeff, what are you doing using for spec?
Sorry, what was that?
Like, what are you writing your specs with?
Oh, I just use superpowers. It's this Cloud Code plugin.
Okay, okay.
All right, let's let these
All
guys present and then we do more Q&A. All
Yeah,
right.
I'll try to keep this under, let's see, like 5 minutes. All
Okay.
right. So this is Agent Loop. This is an agent orchestrator. I guess I haven't tried the agent orchestrator that Jeffrey's using, but um, I've tried, let's say, like Claude Teams and Ralph Wiggum and things of that nature. The biggest difference between something like this and Ralph Wiggum is like, first of all, there's like a Kanban UI, right? So like a sprint, like Kanban board, where you can queue up tasks and run them overnight, similar to Ralph Wiggum. The other thing is that you can generate it using the chat. Eventually, there'll be like spec coding where it will ask you like a questionnaire of like different design decisions you want to make throughout the design, and then you have your TDD and PRD, and that will generate very detailed tasks for you. For either a greenfield project or brownfield project, if you just have a very robust feature and then decompose it into a bunch of different tasks. And then each column on the Kanban board is bounded to a specific custom agent. So not only is this an agent orchestrator, it's also an agent engine, similar to if you guys have heard LangChain or Langsmith or NAN. You can build your own agents, and each agent will have a tree of decisions that it can go through, which I'll talk about in a second. But you can bind each column on the Kanban board to an agent. And when you start an agent, for example, a task like, write such and such feature, right? In this case, it's like an Electron desktop GUI that we're working on for Agent Loop, because right now I'm showing the TUI, but working on a GUI too. once you start the orchestrator, it will pull with these persistent agents that are actually running in the background. So that's the one thing that's also different about something such as like Cloud Code agents or Open Code agents, or I guess Openclaw is like probably one of the first sort of persistent background agents that you can think of, because they run it with cron jobs. But here they're always running in the background, similar to like maybe something like a video game NPC, and they have a tree of decisions that they're always going through. And they can pull tasks in that are queued up, and they'll pull them into the Kanban board. And then as each task is run, it will process it. It will QA it. For example, if it's in the review column, if it's done engineering it, writing the code, it'll pull it into the QA column. And once QA verifies that it's correct, if it's not correct, it'll move it to black. But once it verifies it's correct, it will release it by pulling up creating a pull request that you can review. So there's still a human in the loop if you want, or you can sort of auto YOLO it and have it auto merge. But yeah, before you merge it into main and put it into production, you can just have it make a PR that's very detailed and review it. And because each agent is customizable, it can also, be fitted with like, the QA agent, for example, could be fitted with like browser use. The default will be like end-to-end, or sorry, the default will be like unit tests and integration tests, but you can also fit it with like, Playwright or any other browser use, or backend tasks, or maybe fit it with like AWS or Vercel agents, right? And those will be all have like restricted MCP tools, or be able to bring together composable skills similar to OpenClaw. And when you're making these tasks, it'll be put in this directed acyclic graph. So this is actually what makes the agents able to run in parallel, because you have an intelligent sort of description, this graph wired up of task dependencies. So if a task is dependent on another, right? Let's say you have a front end or back end task, those can be run in parallel. But if you have like a project setup task, that's obviously going to be an initial dependency that everything else is dependent on. So nothing else in the DAG will be processed by the Kanban board until then. And then you have something like this view right here. Let me actually restart agent loop to make sure the daemon's running. There is a bug. This is the dev build I'm showing right now. So it's possible that there might be an issue with the daemon right now, but let me start it again. But it should start all these background agents, and each of these agents are fitted. Okay, yeah, it is running. So each of these agents are fitted with MCP tools and a new concept, right, that current agents don't have in agent harnesses, called the behavior tree. And this is a concept taken from classical AI, video games, robotics, where you sort of merge classical AI, the determinism of it, with the non-determinism of LMs. So with LMs, they're great for generating code and being creative and finding creative solutions to problems. But the problem with them is they do what's called graceful degradation, right? With graceful degradation, the LM will just keep coming up with backup plans until, it runs out of backup plans. It doesn't have the data from its training, and then it hallucinates and lies to you. And I'm sure everyone's experienced this at some point, right? Where LM will just give you a completely BS answer that makes no sense, or it does make sense, and it's just deceptive enough to sound like it makes sense that it actually tricks you. And then maybe you pull some broken code into production, or in the case of like the military, that could result in killing the wrong target. In the case of like insurance, it could cause legal issues, or misappropriation of funds, things of that nature. So you do want these deterministic layers in some cases, because otherwise you'll just get a result where you're lied to, especially in critical cases. It's pretty important. But the way it does that is it creates these structured output in JSON. Let me move my screen a little bit. So it produces structured output. So you can see in the result of this custom agent I created, right, the ShadCN Electron agent. So I made a specific agent which inherits from the base engineer that creates that is specialized for Electron and ShadCN, which is a React library. So it's working on the front end for our desktop GUI, and each node in the behavior tree creates a structured output result. And this is part of what allows you to create a deterministic output, because every single thing is checked programmatically, right? So when an LM outputs a structured result, Each of these fields are checked when necessary by a programmatic node after, right? And this allows for, and not only that, it allows for better context engineering besides these deterministic programmatic checks, right? Because you're condensing and compressing these particular tasks into specific nodes inside of the behavior tree. And the behavior trees can get pretty complex. So if you see here, right, this is the behavior tree for the engineer, I believe. So it starts with the root. It takes the spec summary. If you've done spec coding, right, and you have a PRD or TDD in there, it'll read all that, load into the context, and they'll make a bunch of decisions throughout the behavior tree, right? Send the start notification, right? Index the code graph. So in this case, like a vector database, learn all about the memories and the existing code base. And it'll break even all the code down into an abstract syntax tree. So it's not just a pure vector RAG. It'll like break it down into tokens and then traverse those tokens in a graph. And so on and so forth, right? It'll choose to implement it. There's a validation wrapper, and it'll just have a bunch of different paths that'll go down depending on the decisions, right? And you could load an LM with all this information, but within like two decisions, and it's probably just going to start hallucinating because LMs are not good at programmatic, right? Tasks. They're good at predicting the next token and doing probabilistic tasks. So they're just trying to understand natural language and predict the next token. Whereas here, like each task, when it does call an LM, it has a very particular task and does not do context drift, right? It doesn't have to go through multiple steps of conditional logic. The conditional logic is handled for you programmatically, and this is what allows for a deterministic result where the AI or the LMs will produce usually the exact same result every single time, right? Deterministically. So you could say, maybe it doesn't reduce hallucinations entirely, but it might reduce it by something like 80%, 90%, close the gap where you can trust the LM to merge a PR into production, right? And yeah, so the reason why you would want that is the problem with something like Ralph Wiggum is you could run Ralph Wiggum all night and have it produce code, but that doesn't really matter, right? When people say, "Oh, I want my code to be autonomous," that doesn't really matter if it produces broken code, right? You just wasted tokens all night if it produces broken code. So the determinism matters with a autonomous agent orchestrator because if it produces correct code, right, that's what you really want, right? You want it to run by itself, but the reason it can run by itself and doesn't need human intervention is that it produces correct deterministic code. And if you add enough validation layers and checks automatically, and it's customizable, so you can sort of fit it into these bespoke solutions for your particular project and your particular tech stack by using the agent builder and the behavior trees and the agent definitions and the sub-agent system that we have with our agent creator, then you can have autonomous code runs as well as any other sort of thing you can think of, such that you would use with NAN, like accounting or marketing or anything that nature that's based on webhooks instead of compound triggers. You could do anything you want with your AI agents autonomously, but the output will be significantly more likely to be correct. So you can trust it a lot more. So that's sort of what differentiates this agent engine and orchestrator and agent harness from other sort of orchestrators. And the final thing is it also has agent to agent communication. So the agents can actually communicate with each other and coordinate with each other. For example, a front end agent might want to know what the back end agent's contract and REST API looks like. So when it sends JSON payloads to the back end and is writing code for that, it's going to want to know what the contract that the backend set up to begin with was, right? So I think I'm definitely a little bit over time. It's a very sophisticated orchestrator to explain, but that's Agent Loop. If you're interested in it or want to talk to us about it or want to check it out, it's agentloop.run is the website. And from there, you can join the Discord or look at my X or just message me at troy@trigentic.ai. But yeah, you can find out the website if you're interested.
Go, yeah.
Yeah,
And then feel free to drop in any links in the Discord, Troy, and then
yeah,
have
and
the promotion channel so you can.
And definitely, thanks for letting me present, Jeff.
Can you hear me?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yep.
I was curious. I think I saw something about ACP agents dropped in the last few Openclaw releases, and if you had any idea of what that was all about, and it seemed to be about agents talking to each other or kind of like orchestration, some type of orchestration. Just a question, if you looked into that at all.
Are you referring to ACP or
ACP
A2A.
agents, yeah.
Okay. So ACP, correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, that's that protocol created by that IDE. I forgot what it was
I
called.
always
That's like
forget
really
what it
fast.
is because it's about doing something in an IDE, which I don't do as much anymore.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like it's basically this generic protocol to be able to connect any agent to any IDE,
Okay.
and or like agent harness. So um, it's not. So there's another concept that's like closely related. That's like standardized by Google and all these, you know, other cohort companies in FANG and in Silicon Valley, called A2A, which is agent to agent communication. And it's just a standard protocol for agents to communicate with each other. Eventually, we will implement it into Agent Loop because all those companies have approved it already. And we want to be able to, you know, automatically be able to talk to Stripe's agents or Google's agents or whatever, right, under this standard. Right now, we're not doing that because for local, it doesn't really make sense. It's very overkill. And like they use like sort of older technology so that it's compatible with like everybody's stack, right? Some like JSON, very basic JSON, RPC technology instead of like something like gRPC, or like we're using IPC with like a local Unix socket, which is like a lot faster. So as far as ACP though, yeah, it's just a way to connect any agent harness to an IDE. It's just a standard protocol for that.
All right, thank you.
Yep, no problem.
All right, cool. I mean, if people want to stay another 10, 15 minutes, we can go into some more advanced topics. I think the orchestrators, loopers are a good topic. I can present my little infographic again and walk through some stuff.
Hey Jeff, I got a
Um,
question for you.
yeah, go ahead.
Are you using the does your OpenClaw read from a notes app? Like I know people are using Obsidian, and then are you using messaging? I think you're using Slack for messaging. I was looking at WhatsApp,
Yeah.
and I guess where I want to go with this question is like, have you found like how do you control the verbosity? Like sometimes I feel like I would want OpenClaw to give me like really detailed updates, and other times I'd like to tone it down. I haven't even gotten to this stage yet. I'm just thinking way far ahead.
So like, what kind of problems do you think you would encounter, right? So there's a couple things, right? I actually don't use a notes app necessarily, but what I do is I just use beads. I don't know if you've tried it. I would actually recommend Beads Rust, which is like a fork of the original Beads. I can link the repo. And what I do is I just tell my AI to take notes, and sometimes it automatically does it when it's working well. And it kind of just remembers what to do. The other thing I use is memory. So again, sometimes it'll automatically take memory, whether you're using Cloud Code or OpenClaw. Sometimes you got to customize it. And I feel like usually with those types of solutions like beads and memory, you're going to get enough like stuff where you don't really need to worry about like too much external nodes like Evernote or Notion, at least for me. The other thing is, I don't know if you know, but locally, actually, all of your conversations are saved. So they're saved in your user directory. So even if like something happens and you're like, what was up with that thing I did 3 days ago? You can actually ask your agents to look at the convo history and figure it out, and have a slash command to do that as well. And then I think you were asking about what was it, verbosity or something?
Yeah, like so it's messaging you through whatever your preferred
Mhm.
medium is. I was thinking I do WhatsApp because I don't think I'm going to use Slack for this, but like the way I imagine it is that I'm starting off a project and I'm just in the planning phase, and
Mhm.
so at that stage, I would imagine that OpenClaw is just kind of a like reads from my notes where I tell it I've got an idea, and then it's gonna like pass that to whatever my planning like
Mhm.
that's open spec or whatever you're using to like develop a spec, right? And then questions come back, and I answer those questions, and then eventually we land on a plan, and then OpenClaw like says, okay, now the agent should actually start working on this. And if I'm not at work, I'd love to get like a lot of like I'd love to get pinged for small, lots of like you'd be able to control it and like give input along the way. But if I'm at work, I want it to shut up and like leave me alone.
So there's a couple things you could do. One thing is like you could even have something like a cron job and the cron job would know what your schedule is, and then go like, okay, that's the amount of updates I want about, ongoing convos or tasks. The other thing you can do is in any convo, you can be like, Openclaw, remind me about this or do this. That's usually better for like one-off things because I feel like the Openclaw cron is like a little unreliable. So like, it'll work or whatever, but like a few days later, something might override it accidentally. So I think when you have things that will like be useful like beyond a day or whatever, I would do the launch D cron jobs on your Mac, or it's like system D on Linux. But if it's just like in the moment and you're like, hey, like I want to update every 2 minutes, right? You can just ask for it usually. Let me know if that answers your question.
Yeah, that sounds good. I appreciate that. That sounds cool.
All right, so yeah, for anyone who wants, firstly, does anyone have any other questions or topics?
Hey Jeff, yeah, I had a quick question.
Go ahead, yeah.
First, yeah, thanks for sharing this presentation, for sharing Smart Claw. I was like really curious. Maybe you could like simplify it for me. What specifically does Smart Claw offer over OpenClaw? Like, is it just like the Slack integration in your configs?
Oh yeah, yeah. Nothing actually yet. So what I have to do is I have a bunch of stuff in my other repo. I have to clean it up and make sure I didn't
Got
leak
you.
some weird thing like a token and do it. But what will it eventually do? I think I'll have all of my customizations, and then what I eventually want it to do is to be like the sort of, how would I call it? More of like a self-replacement than OpenClaw. So right now with OpenClaw, you have to still do a lot of the driving, right? Versus like I might have some automatic cron jobs, like every day, go look for all the bugs that might have been introduced. Every day, look for all the ways to simplify the code. Every day, tell me about the decisions that OpenClaw made or Cloud Code or Agent Orchestrator made that seemed a little like risky or maybe low confidence. Send me back some recommendations. So um, I sort of have it working, but I think it needs to be a little more polished, a little more reliable, and then I'll share it out. And then I'll also like just have my integration with Agent Orchestrator. There's some code to do that as well. But if you want to get started, anyone can clone Agent Orchestrator and try it out. You could also get something pretty quick. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I see. So you're saying it's more catered towards solving your like workflow, like so,
I would say
making your
so.
workflow more efficient.
Yeah. So
Okay,
like
makes
if you're
sense.
not like I'm trying to do this stage right in this stage, but like if you're like kind of depends on what the person's doing, but if you're like getting used to this, it may not make
Mhm.
sense to bother with it, right? But like if you're like, hey, like how do I do my orchestrators, or how do I do a self-evolving system where it's automatically proposing merging its code? Eventually, I want Smart Cloud to be like this if it works, right? Or I have to wait for a new model. So that's kind of like the goal, but I'll see how far it can go.
Yeah, interesting. Rather than taking like the distro approach almost of like kind of rolling your own config and releasing that, have you considered like releasing a plugin or I don't know, like the OpenClaw ecosystem, like they support I don't know, like a skill or something, or
I
just
think I
a more
probably
modular
would.
way to.
I probably would. But to the best of my knowledge, you're not like how do I put it? With the plugin, you can't do everything you want. Um, versus like the sort of fork, right? So I mean, I might do both though. I might be like, hey, like here's a taste of the things that I
Yeah,
want to do. Here's the plugin, and then here's my
right.
fork if you really want to. But yeah, that could be a good idea. Like I could do a plugin with you know, the daily bug
Yeah.
hunting jobs and stuff like that. Right?
What like basically whatever you can solve in a plugin, you can solve there, and
Yeah,
then everything
exactly.
else
I think
your own
that is a
fork.
good way to think about it though, because
Right,
first it's like, okay, are you going to do a plugin, right? And then people can just keep using the main repo, get all the benefits, and use your stuff, right? Then
right,
it's like,
right.
okay, if you fork, even if you fork, I try to code it so that I'm not like colliding with their code too much. So it's easy to just sync it up. Then the
Just pour
final thing
additive.
is where
Yeah,
I'm like, you know what, I want to change their core code, which I haven't actually done that much.
right,
So
right. Interesting. Do you think the perhaps like the OpenClaw ecosystem might move towards like distros where people are kind of making their own modifications on?
I think it has to some degree, but I
Okay,
think the plugins are not, how would I put it? I don't think the plugins are like very, you don't change too much core logic with the plugin. Actually, Agent
right.
Orchestrator is pretty good. sort of different thing where at least the goal is like, okay, you can like make a plugin for most of the components and swap things out. I don't feel like OpenClaw is there yet. Honestly, maybe it should be though. For example, I feel like
What
there's
does
Slack
OpenClaw
integration
plugin?
stuff.
Sorry to
What's
interrupt.
that?
What does the OpenClaw plugin allow? Is it
So
how is it different from skills? Like, does it allow you to like change things in the API of OpenClaw?
so it lets you like execute different code to the best of my knowledge, right? So like the skill is just the MD file or whatever. But like they just released a plugin to like have better memory, for example. And that's like an official plugin. So I think
I
OpenClaw
think you have more access to
opens that.
APIs. Yeah. Cool. Thanks for answering.
All right. So yeah, spend a few minutes. All right, Rob's gotta go. Thanks, Rob. I'll spend a few minutes just kind of talking about it. So I want to know a bit if if you're still interested, whoever's here, where is everybody at? Like, is anyone still here without parallelism? Or is
Uh,
anyone still here with code assist?
yeah, I'm probably like in stage B. Yeah, yeah,
Okay, so you're probably here then, you think?
yeah.
What would stop you from going here?
Uh, poo, poo. I think it was more like the I'm getting bottlenecked by the testing.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had that slash command and sort of that philosophy, but you basically need those tests to be more reliable and try to do like the smallest min repro type of thing. And then you can start benefiting from more volume, probably, right?
Yeah,
Okay, that makes sense. Have you tried the work tree though?
I have.
Okay, yeah.
I have. I
I
mean,
personally think the best setup, go.
with I mean, so Claude has used to change things a little bit, but in Claude you could spin up a swarm of agents
Yeah.
and it will do things in parallel. So I was using that quite a bit, but it seems to be doing shifted and doing more of the sub agent thing. And it'll say we'll spin up sub agents, and I kind of let it do the sub agents right now.
So the way I think of it though is you could do Claude with sub agents, or you could do the Claude team. But
Hmm.
usually that's for still one task. So it's like you
Yeah.
have one task, you split it up multiple ways, and it could be a big
Hmm.
one.
Hmm.
But the advantage of this is like you're working on different things.
Parallel task. Yeah. Hmm.
All right. Who's working at that looping agent level? So Ralph Wiggum, or you can just use the Claude loop. Has anyone been trying the looping agent stuff?
Yeah, I haven't tried it. It seems like you have to give it a goal. It's
Yeah.
almost like reinforcement learning type thing, right? You have to give it a goal and say that you need to hit this goal, right?
Yeah.
And if you have a goal in mind, then it will optimize towards that.
So I think the Ralph the Ralph loop, if you just read the article, it's like kind of okay, but there is a pretty good repo that I recommend. It's like this Snark Ralph repo. Let me link it. So what's good about this repo is I think he has some good task breakdown composition. It's kind of similar to what Troy said, but it's more simple than Troy's breakdowns. So once you have like some good breakdowns to be like, okay, here was your task, here's your mini tasks, then that loop starts to get more compelling. Versus if you just read that article and you're like, do it, and you kind of just give it one spec and you like loop over it. I think it's still better than nothing, but I think you may not get amazing outcomes.
Yeah, one repo. I don't know if you've seen this, Jeff, but I discovered something called Ralph Orchestrator. I would say it's like probably 50%. I hate to link this because it's kind of like a competitor to
Yeah.
Agent Loop, but like it's kind of like 50% on the way to Agent Loop, where it's like it adds events to Ralph and it adds like sort of like DAG style dependency like beads to Ralph. So it has like triggers and things of that nature. So it's like you can create very easily create a bunch of different like workflows where it's like, okay, you have the engineer agent, and then you have the QA agent, and then you have the release agent, maybe you have a DevOps agent, very similar to like Agent Loop. But yeah, that's out there as well.
So I tried that repo. I actually don't like it.
I haven't tried it yet. I've
Yeah.
only read it, so I'm interested to
Whatever
hear what you
it's
think.
doing, like for example, I tried it in a task similar to your benchmark and it just didn't do it, right? And I think it might work if like you mess around with it and get it set up, but at the same time, it's kind of like, you could try something else, right? So like for example, your thing worked, right? And then something similar to your thing I just tried with the other repo, Snark Ralph, which is a lot simpler than the Mikey repo, but it just kind of works better. Um, so the one that I linked is just like this bash script that decomposes tasks. In theory, right, the Mikey O'Brien thing sounds better, but at least I tried it like 2 months ago. It just kind of didn't work. Right. So,
Yeah, maybe it's changed, but I haven't tried it. Yeah, that's the always like the coin flip with open source repos, I
yeah.
find. I mean, you don't know if it actually works until you try it, right? You
Right,
can't
right.
just base it off GitHub stars or something like that because a lot of people who will star something on GitHub will not have even pulled the
Yeah,
repo and tried
exactly.
it yet. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, obviously your thing works, not open source, right? But that's cool. And then
Right.
I think if you want an open source thing, I personally think the Snark Ralph one is the best one right now, just for the pure loop. And then you have Agent Orchestrator, but you basically will pay a higher token cost. So that does more. It has an AI type of manager that restarts the worker and does a bunch of things and tries to hit some goal as well. But the simplest thing when you're understanding the loop is, I would say, either the Snark Ralph repo or try to roll your own. Um, who is familiar with the harness engineering OpenAI article, or who doesn't know what that means? Okay, maybe most people are familiar, but I think this is a good kind of thing to focus on. And honestly, it helps any stage, but like it gets more important when you want to get more autonomous. So do you have like really good MD files, skills files, stuff like that? And then that's kind of like before the task starts. And then when the task starts, do you have a good guardrail? So like, do you have like pretty solid tests? Do your agents produce verifiable output? Do you have something else reading it? And then when it fails the test, then it's like, oh, you didn't really get this work done, or the spec is wrong, or like you didn't build the spec, then go back and then redo your whole loop. Right. I think he had a question. Okay, some command failed and autopilot. Right. So yeah, I think this is still an emerging area, but it's pretty exciting. And then there's a time when you want to pull the trigger on the orchestrator. So I think if things are kind of messy, it may not be worth it, especially if you have a limited token budget. But actually, what made me start getting more interested in orchestrators was Minimax, actually. So even though Minimax, I think, is not that great, and who knows, there may be another good cheap one. It like gets some work done, and then something else will check the work, and then you actually have a loop there, and then in some ways the work is free. The other thing that got me more excited about orchestrators was finally I got a program to control anti-gravity. So I'll show anti-gravity, but um, I don't know. Can people see my screen? Yeah.
Mhm.
So anti-gravity is actually a terrible IDE, a terrible product. Everything
Right.
about it's terrible except for this. This is like almost unlimited, which is amazing, right? So like every other thing, it has a weekly limit almost, right? So like you can't like, and then Cursor has a monthly limit, even worse. Like you could use up all of your quota halfway through the month. But this has a limit that I think refreshes every like hour or 2 hours. So when I hit this limit, every time I look, it's like, oh, 2 hours later, your limit will be back. And it doesn't hit that often. So I'll also open source this, but what I did was I forked Agent Orchestrator and I made an orchestrator to just control this. And you may go like, okay, why not just use an API endpoint, right? Like you can, but you might get banned. So a lot of people were hitting this API endpoint directly because the quota is almost unlimited. Um, but Google would ban that because they obviously don't want you to do that. They want you to use the IDE. But if you programmatically control the IDE, I think should be pretty
So
pretty.
is this like browser automation or uh,
It is not browser automation. It is Mac OS program automation, but a similar concept. Yeah.
mhm.
So I do have a 250 a month plan. I still think probably you'll get good quota on lower plans, but yeah, I have a 250 a month plan, but that's the best ratio I've ever seen for tokens. And I have a skill also to control it because the orchestrator is not fully working, but I'll link the skill too. But like, for people with like a decent budget where you actually want to like just, token max, right? Like it's quite good. I've heard this.
I mean, that would be a great Ralph loop, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Maximize my tokens.
And like,
Just
I don't really,
doing what
it's like, I don't really care that much if it doesn't, maybe put it in this folder. I don't care that much if it doesn't get work done because like, it doesn't like have a weekly limit. So like, if
Mhm.
it runs out in 2 hours, it's like, who cares, right? Yeah, I have some improvements to this skill, but here's the latest one. And I'll update this later. But yeah, that's pretty cool. And I'll show the self-evolving thing. Let's see. It's not working now, but I'll explain the idea. Wait a minute. Did I click on the wrong- So I have CodeRabbit, and then what's cool about CodeRabbit is I'm like, okay, did I get the, wait, it's hard to see it here. Did I get the CodeRabbit approval? So okay, CodeRabbit approved. I guess something was in progress, so maybe shouldn't have merged. But the other part is a custom review agent. So it actually will check some of this stuff too. And then it's supposed to check like the evidence in the PR and go like, okay, did you actually like do what you're supposed to do? This may not be a good PR for it though. Let's see if I can find a better one. Hmm. Okay, this is interesting. Let's see how this did. Okay, so CodeRabbit requested changes, so it's probably not ready. Maybe I have to look around some more, find it exactly. Okay, well, anyway, this is probably, not the most exciting PR because it's 100 lines, but what's kind of cool is like this, I don't even know why it's doing this, right? So I'm just like, make me a blog where I can talk to my AI workers. And then it just went and made like 30 PRs. And this is kind of like what I'm trying to get into with the self-evolving system where of course I could get a spec and get milestones or whatever, right? But what if in a few sentences I'm like just build something, right? So that's kind of what's cool about this. And when I kind of just lightly go through it, I'm like, okay, like sure, CI is green, whatever. And then I think I had a CodeRabbit approval. Okay, well maybe. So yeah, another thing is like maybe I don't have the CodeRabbit approval, but I notice sometimes it's just annoying. Like I get a rate limit. So then I also have this backup LLM reviewer to go like, okay, if CodeRabbit doesn't approve, you can approve it. The other review bots are not as good about approving PR. So I think for now, only CodeRabbit can actually do the real approve. Let's see, did CodeRabbit? Okay, CodeRabbit. Oh, it skipped it. Okay, so maybe it had a rate limit. But the goal is like CodeRabbit checks everything, and then I have one final thing to sometimes supersede CodeRabbit if it's rate limited or do its own check to see if it misses anything. And when everything works, I'll basically have a custom AI code review per repo with all the repo standards and everything I want that's fully in my control. And then I have an overall thing like CodeRabbit to let it approve.
So CodeRabbit also needs a model, right?
CodeRabbit is just doing its automatic model. I'm not sure exactly which model it's using.
But you're paying for you're paying for it.
I am paying, but I think it's pretty cheap. Or like they comped me, but I think I'm getting $20 a month, right? But it's like whatever, right? Yeah. And then I think actually the best reviewer is still like the Codex model. So I'm using Codex 5.3 to do it. Yeah. But I think I didn't have a super great example yet because it's still kind of work in progress. But the main thing is like you're gonna have your code review bots. I have a lot of them, right? And I guess I don't know why CodeRap is not showing up. Maybe rate limit, right? But I have four. Even with all four code review bots, they can all say yes, or you can resolve all their comments, and then you can go and look and you can be like, like maybe 60% of PRs, I agree with the merge decision. So I don't think you can get 100%, but let's say you close another 10, 20%. Then you're going to have some better velocity. And let's say you get to 70%. That might be good enough for certain types of projects, especially tools, where if something goes wrong, you know right away that you can turn on that auto merge. And then you can be like, I'll maybe before a bigger release or show it to a lot of people, I'll just run my own stuff to see if there's anything wrong. I have not turned it on in the AI role-playing game though, because if I modify certain things, it can take like 2 weeks before I like notice something is wrong, especially like a prompt, right? So if you mess up a prompt and then it's like, oh, during going from level 6 to level 7, the D&D stats are wrong, right? Like versus like, oh, if I break my agent orchestrator, usually I'll know right away something's wrong. So the agent orchestrator and my Openclaw stuff, I've turned on the auto merge, and I'm kind of just breaking things and then going to fix it and improving this basically. So I think eventually everyone will start to customize their review agents on top of the AI. Yeah. And then you have the potentially self-evolving system. But I think it's just funny to have an experience where you're like what are these PRs, right? Like when I go here and I'm like, okay, what is merging, right? Like, okay, I don't even know what that's for, right? I think I remember asking for this, but I did not ask for 6 worker archetypes. So I said, make a novel about my system and the workers. So it just made 6 archetypes. Great. Okay, right.
Does CodeRabbit allow you to do anything to like set a criteria for your repo, like a
It does
constitution or something
actually.
like that?
You can actually customize that too. It shows me a prompt. I haven't actually used it too much because I'm just like, maybe I'll just roll my own thing. But yeah, you could definitely do that though. I think it's in settings actually.
Yeah, that gives me some ideas. Like, it would be better if it asked you a bunch of questions about your repo and like what
Yeah.
criteria that you actually wanted. Maybe it already does that. I don't know.
I think the thing is that it's good, but it's kind of like read only, right? Because it's gonna run as a GitHub action versus like my thing can talk to Openclaw, it can run on my computer, I can give it as much or as little tools access as I want. And the cost, of course, is like it's not as whatever reliable as I guess as CodeRevit, right? But I'm pretty sure I found something in here where I was like, okay, I don't know where it
I wonder
is.
what's under that behavior tab that you're on the left.
Oh, okay, yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, I guess
Not
just
sure.
basic configuration settings.
I think I did see what you're talking about somewhere though. Yeah. But yeah, I like CodeRabbit. I feel like it's a good overall code review. Like BugBot will find more bugs, but I also like how it'll actually approve the PR. I think no one else has that yet so far.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, we have a client that's asking for like basically a QA agent or like
Mhm.
almost like a QA SaaS. And yeah, this is kind of giving me some ideas about like where current like review agents are lacking.
Yeah. So like you could definitely copy my repo, do whatever you want. I think the benefit of rolling your own is like you control the runtime. So you can be like, install it as a plugin or whatever, even a script, do whatever you want, and it has as much or as little access to your environment versus like CodeRabbit, it's not going to SSH into my machine and do something, right?
Right.
But yeah, if I'm reading these PRs, like I might know what like 40% of them are doing, but like I didn't even know that this PR merged, for example, right? You use it on certain repos where you're more willing to take risks. So I'm trying to like write a rewrite actually of my RPG, but like make it use blockchain. So I'm like, okay, like let's just do this, right? And I didn't even look at any of these PRs. I'm just gonna look like tomorrow to be like, okay, does the how well does the server work? So, like these are just like pretty much fully automated PRs, which is interesting.
Yeah, it's always hard to with your like World AI app to like test apps that are mainly LM driven because the results could be anything. Like you said, it's going to be hard to figure out when like a bug occurs. It could be like some extreme edge
Right.
case.
What
That's
what
something
is
I'm trying to
exciting
think
about
deeply about as
okay.
well because it's like yeah, it's like how do you run tests without burning like just a ridiculous number of tokens, which is
Use
very
Minimax.
expensive.
I use Minimax.
I
Yeah, yeah.
mean, it's kind of interesting because that's the big problem that I think OpenClaw is kind of solved, but OpenAI is subsidizing them or giving
Yeah,
them free
basically.
tokens to do whatever they want to do, right? Because they're merging in 300,
So
400
even with
yards.
the OpenAI OAuth, right? It's not
Hmm.
that expensive because it's OAuth, but like
Hmm.
I always kill my whole weekly limit, so I have to like dial it back probably. But in general, I try to like to give it a lot of context, like memory, the Slack thread, and everything. But every
Hmm.
week, my quota gets destroyed.
Hmm.
And then Anthropic and Google ban it, so you're not, in theory, supposed to do it, right? But some people may get away with it, some people may not. But I think what's interesting is about this repo. This is
Hmm.
also all LM driven and everything, but like I haven't like seriously invested time in it yet. So like I haven't invested a lot of time in the prompts. A lot of this is more scaffolding.
Hmm.
But then at some point, like, I'm gonna launch it and then I'm gonna have to be like, okay, it's no longer greenfield and I can't, you know, let the auto merges happen the way they are now, unless it's like
Hmm.
amazing, right? But for
Hmm.
now, like in some ways, there's nothing to lose because like it's not like the other one where the other one's more developed and you put a lot of work into getting the system prompts like really good. Versus this one is like slim down system prompts and so there's a certain good time where like you can really push the frontier on something that's low risk, learn a lot, and then see what you can accelerate for like higher risk situations.
Have you tried GLM at all? Recently, I had to unsub from Minimax because it's okay at coding,
Mhm.
but it's like very very bad at structured output, like structured JSON. Like I'll give it a schema, I'll give it a bunch of
So
examples for the schema. It'll be like a five JSON field schema, and it'll be missing like two of the fields,
no, so I
like three
definitely
times in a
agree.
row.
I was using GLM for my RPG, and my RPG is like just all structured JSON. So like it's like I don't know, 300,000 tokens of it in a single response. It's like crazy. Um, GLM is pretty decent at it. I stopped though because I was using Cerebras, I guess, and I felt like their rate limits were really low, even with the API key, because I wasn't like some business customer. And then Gemini 3 Flash came out, which I thought was just overall better and not crazily more expensive. But I agree about the G11 structured output. Like it was sort of the best like open source model I've seen with that. Because I've tried a lot of other ones with the RPG, and I think Gemini 3 Flash or well Pro too, right? But Gemini 3 is the best that I've seen with structured output. But for like open source, yeah, probably it is GLM.
Yeah. Have you tried Codex Spark at all? Codex Spark is like insanely fast. I need to test it more,
I
but the
like it.
output's been pretty good so far.
I like it. It's fast. I think you don't give it something too big and something else will double check. But I do like the speed of it. I use that in Composer for similar things like Composer too, where I'm
Yeah,
like,
it's just
yeah.
It's annoying because Minimax, GLM, Codec Spark, none of them are multimodal. So if you need screenshots or like browser use Playwright or whatever, like you have to hook up some separate MCP. It's just like a big pain.
I feel like whatever I'm doing with Composer too, though, and browser testing, it seems fine. Maybe Composer 2 is okay.
Yeah, I think you mean Composer from Cursor?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean maybe that's
That
multimodal.
might
I
be
think
multimodal because
yeah,
Composer 2 is like I pay $60 a month for Cursor. I use Composer 2. It's probably a little slower than Codex Spark, but it's still pretty fast. And it's like a decent general sort of like coding or even testing model.
nice. Yeah, one question I had about world AI is
Mhm.
have you considered ever adding like maybe like a tile-based movement and like world generation with like actual spatial data, right? Like a standard RPG kind of, maybe
Yeah,
not as complex. That would definitely increase my desire to play
yeah.
it a lot more.
No,
Because
it's
like,
definitely something a lot of people want. I'm not sure if I should go halfway with it though. Like, so I could try to do it. I've seen other people doing it, but like it didn't seem like they had good outcomes with it. Versus like you could actually just go all the way and I could figure out some kind of like game engine and feed the structured output to it and actually just make a game that's like a game, right? But it has an LLM backing it.
yeah, I
Versus
feel
like
like
the
that would
LLM is
take
trying to predict
years.
like you're in this square, you're in that square. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I feel like that would take years though. That's quite an an investment. I get what you're saying, but versus just like I don't know, a very basic like side panel with like basic tiles and like bushes appear,
Right,
NPCs
right.
appear, or whatever. I feel like it wouldn't be that much of like progression from like what you already have with like the text-based dungeon sort of
Yeah.
vibe.
I think it's something I definitely want to explore, but I'm not as like, I don't know. I'm not as bullish on it. Like, because I guess I've played like 20 other AI RPGs, right? I haven't seen anyone do a decent job with it. Whereas like what inspired me to do it the way I'm doing it now is like I was just using Gemini chat and I'm like I'm actually getting stories that I like. Like that prototype was enough for me to pursue the project. But I haven't seen anyone do what you describe like well enough that I'm like, yeah, I like it. And who knows,
Yeah.
right? Maybe I could be the first, but I haven't. I think I would first probably try to be like, can I get people to use the product type of thing? And then I go like, which way do I go? Um,
Yeah, that
but
makes
I don't
sense.
know. I'm always kind of thinking about that though. It would be a lot nicer for sure. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're also a story writer, though, right? I think I might
Yeah.
have seen something like that in your repo. Yeah. So, I mean, that makes sense to focus on like something that you're most interested in, your strengths. And then,
Yeah.
like, if you refine that niche, then it's going to be better than trying to please everyone and
Yeah.
then
That's
being
that's the
like
tricky thing.
middle tier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I've seen people doing it. Like maybe I could do a better job, but maybe not. I don't know.
The reason I would go tile based instead of all the way is like I don't know if you've seen like older sort of tile based
Mhm.
RPGs like Ultima, but the fact that they're not very detailed or like I don't know roguelikes or whatever, right, allows for the continued imagination that you project upon it
Mhm.
versus something like Skyrim or something like that where all
Mhm.
the imagination is taken away because you have these AAA graphics in front of you
Got it.
that are very detailed.
No, definitely, definitely. Yeah. I think kind of like as you said, I'll probably focus on the text part, get that good and get some momentum on it. And then yeah, maybe I would try that though. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm wondering like how you kind of deal with like spatial situations. Like let's say you enter a dungeon and you have these D&D rules like they're tile based, right? So it's like
Yeah, yeah.
if you move such and such tiles, is that like omitted from the combat or
It is mostly omitted, but it's basically like vibes, right? So the LLM decides, are you close enough to do something? Can you take a move or not? But I think the downside is like you can't look at a map and then predict your turn and go like, all right, I'll spend, this much movement to do this or something, right?
yeah, it would be cool if like it somehow just gen AI some kind of visualization, even if it's
Yeah,
not like a tile-based game where it's like all programmatic. It could be like just if image models got good enough, right? Like it just created like an image of the situation that's
right.
like a hand drawn, like D&D sort of black and white uh picture or something like that.
Yeah, I prototyped it it was okay. I didn't get super great outcomes, but again, I didn't invest that much. I might even start with the avatar though, because I would say like right now the avatars are not bad. When you're like, okay, just give me a picture of the character, versus like 6 months a year ago, like it would just generate something like, what the hell is this? Like, this guy's like delivering a pizza and it's a medieval fantasy.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah,
would look
those
at
are all
like
definitely good ways to go though for sure. I'm gonna get into it at some point, I think. Yeah.
yeah, for image models, I would look at AI if you've ever seen it, and just look at like the fine-tuned LoRa's, right? And they just create like a much more distinct or specific art style or like, results that you're looking for. Or if you got into it deeply enough in the future, just fine-tuning your own models to like, I want this exact result
How do
or
you spell
whatever.
that? Or send me.
Civit.ai, I'll just type it in chat. I'd be careful. I mean, I would just turn off like not safe for work or whatever on your account if you're in a precarious situation where you're not allowed to look at that. But besides that, it has a bunch of like normal models for that sort of thing, or normal fine tuning. LoRa's they're called.
So yeah, actually what's funny is I have this spicy mode thing. It actually works decently well. You can turn it on and do whatever you want.
Nice.
You just use Grok basically.
How do you you said you have to use Grok?
Yeah. So
Yeah, because
Gemini
I
just
was
has
gonna ask how you get past the censoring of
Gemini has more
mainstream models.
sensory than Grok. Grok really doesn't have too much, right?
Yeah, I've noticed it pretty much has like no
Yeah.
limits.
So like if you want to do some erotica novel, you could do it and play D&D rules and just turn on the Grok. It's pretty funny.
Right.
All right, cool. Better take off. Anyone have any last questions or thoughts?
I had one.
Oh,
Can
good.
we get API access to consensus AI, or you're not planning?
Yeah, yeah. I'll definitely open it up. I just haven't set it up yet. But yeah,
Like,
I definitely use it a lot. So yeah, I'll
yeah, I
open.
think I have some use cases I could connect my agents to, but cool, thanks.
Or like I might even just do like I might just open source it and then people can just install it themselves, bring your own key too. So, or I
Yeah.
could let you set the keys too. Yeah, we'll see. But I think it doesn't have enough usage now that like you can use my keys. That's fine. Yeah. All right, cool. All right, thanks a lot, everybody. Post the recording and notes too. Have a good one.
Thanks, Jeff. Have a good one.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate you.